Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. This week, I want to talk about Ferris Wheel Pro's recent Metroid Prime 4 Beyond video, where he made the case for Metroid Prime 4 Beyond being 100% exclusive to Nintendo Switch. And the only version that you'll be playing on Nintendo Switch 2 will be a backwards compatible version of the Switch 1 game. So it won't take advantage of Switch 2 at all. That's basically what his video was about. He's waited so long for Metroid Prime 4 Beyond on Switch 1 that he wants to play it on Switch 1. He doesn't want to know that there's a better version that exists out there. And as a Switch 1 owner, I 100% understand that. But here's the thing. He's not going to be a Switch 1 owner for much longer. Like, will he own the Switch 1? Probably. Will he be gaming on it? Never. Because, well, he's going to buy Switch 2. So, Ferris, I don't get it because while I understand that you've been waiting for this game for so long, I've been waiting for it just as long. And I feel all the same sentiments that you feel about the anticipation for it, the hype for it, and everything. But it is 2025, and we are 100% confirmed now to be getting a brand new Nintendo console this year. Hybrid, whatever you want to call it. New hardware is coming this year. The new generation of Nintendo starts this year. Metroid Prime 4 comes out this year. Of course, most of us are going to be like, yeah, Breath of the Wild, that joint. Do what you did with Twilight Princess. Because who wants to play that game on Switch 1? Switch 1 from 2017? Metroid Prime 4 after waiting all these years? And we don't get to play it on the new hardware? That doesn't make sense to me. Look. Even if the Switch 1, right, and Switch 2 are both just 1080p hybrid devices. Switch 2 does not go to 4K. I still want Metroid Prime 4 on Switch 2. Now, let's say it does go to 4K. Even more reason why I want it on Switch 2. But let's say it doesn't. Let's just say it doesn't because we have no proof that Switch 2 is going to be 4K. What we've seen from the reveal trailer was a 1080p upload. That's what we saw. So as of right now, I'm not even going to bring up 4K. But it is new hardware. We know it's going to be stronger. So what does that mean for Prime 4? That means less loading. That means doors opening quicker. I like that. I want that. You understand what I'm saying? So I want the new version just for the fact that the game is just going to play smoother. This is not Metroid Prime 1. All right? This is Metroid Prime 4. Being made on the Switch. It's going to have hiccups and dips and things like that because, again, this is not a game from 2001. This is a game being made today. And that game being made today would run a lot better on more capable hardware today. And we're going to have this year, basically today, new hardware. So it should be available on that. But that's just one aspect of it, right? One aspect is, yeah, man, I just want to get through these corridors quicker. The other aspect is Retro Studios, the creators of Metroid. No, that's not what. The creators of Donkey Kong. No, not that. The creators of the Wii Remote Nunchuck. Boom. Now imagine in the year where supposedly we're gonna get a Pro controller that splits in half. Mouse-like features on that controller and also on the included Joy-Cons on the Switch 2, mouse-like controls, motion controls. Metroid Prime 4 and Metroid Prime in general has an accessibility issue. More control options can help with those accessibility issues. But then you got to also consider Retro Studios, the Nunchuck, looking at the new Joy-Cons, mouse features, split Pro controllers supposedly, and Retro Studios, you just got to think they made one of one games. There's no other game that exists like Metroid Prime 3 Corruption. And now they can one-up that game 100%. They don't actually have to remove anything. They never had to while making the game on Switch because they always had motion controls there. So they could have kept a lot of that stuff like, pulling off shields off enemies with motion controls and stuff like that. They can keep a lot of that stuff in there. But the fact that now even more new controls came in so then they can add on top of that. And hell, even if they don't do it day one, it being available natively on the Switch too, they can update that game. You know what I mean? To take advantage of new controls in the future. And you could say, oh yeah, they could do that for Switch One, but if it's just Switch One software, why would they? Nintendo actually believes in generation, and if the game isn't part of the generation, they're not gonna waste time on it. It's just gonna come out on Switch One, and that's it. That's what I feel. But if it comes out on Switch Two, now this is something where they're like, yeah, look, if most of the users are there, like what happened with Twilight Princess and Breath of the Wild on Switch 2, it's on the new generation, it's on the new hardware. They can continue to build and develop for that game new areas, DLC, story content, and stuff like that, which is also very crucial to me as a Metroid fan and my enjoyment, of Switch 2 as a hardware, but also Metroid as an IP. I want DLC for it. Like, I really do want DLC for it. And I hope that that's something that happened, that it's just not, oh yeah, they made this one game and that's it. If they're going to do anything else, we got to wait for a whole nother game. I would like, oh, Samus has a little mission to have to go explore. That's a little, $10 DLC or something like that. I would love that. Absolutely love that. It's nothing more exciting than knowing like Doom the Dark Ages is coming out. It's a fully featured game, but it's already gotten DLC announced for the future, new story content. That's exciting to me. I like that Doom Eternal did that. I liked when Zelda did the same thing, Breath of the Wild. And I wish that Tears of the Kingdom even had DLC. I wish Mario Odyssey had DLC. I say this all the time. But no new kingdoms were added. But yeah, Metroid Prime 4 being on new hardware, there's a chance of that. Now, when it comes to new hardware in Metroid 2, I think there is something where, okay, first you made mention, of Twilight Princess not being the reason why people bought the Wii. But it was. And that was the best-selling Zelda game up to that point. Did more people buy the Wii for Wii Sports? Yeah, as they should. Because at that moment in time, technically Wii Sports was the better game. It was something people never experienced. It was a moment in video games. Like you could look and say, what do you mean better game? Like Twilight Princess got dungeons and puzzles and characters. I know, gamer game, I get it. But just comparable software at that time, it was just nothing was touching that. You know what I'm saying? Like it just wasn't. Wii Sports was something that people had to experience. They had to get their hands on it. It was like an arcade, bringing it into your home. It's like, yo, we could really bowl. So it was a crazy moment. But still, you can't take away from what Twilight Princess achieved in becoming the best-selling Zelda game of all time up to that moment, tied to new hardware. And I know Metroid is not Zelda, nowhere near. The worst-selling Zelda game still sells way better than the best-selling Metroid game. That's just the truth. Now, I know it's not Zelda, but Zelda wasn't the Zelda that it is today either. But it being there at that launch, it was a good thing for it. Then obviously you fast forward many years, many years. Then we get to the Wii U, right? And we get the Zelda game Promise. It doesn't come out during that time. Rarely comes out right at the end. Basically, Prime 4 scenario. Do you really want to play Breath of the Wild on the Wii U versus Switch? You probably didn't do that. You know what I mean? And I get it, because I know the truth is, if the game is announced for Switch 2, he's not playing it on Switch 1 either. Like, that's why he's like, damn, like that's crazy. But it is what it is. You know what I mean? Sometimes it'll still be, it's available on Switch 1 for people who want it. The same way Twilight Princess was there for people who wanted it. And many people double dip because some people didn't like the waggle controls and they wanted to just press the A button. So they bought the GameCube version of Twilight Princess. Breath of the Wild really didn't have, they basically stripped away all the gamepad features for the Switch port. And the Switch port comes out and it becomes the best-selling Zelda game of all time. The zeitgeist for Zelda is bigger than it's ever been. Tears of the Kingdom comes out, that's better than ever. Now, I always think about Metroid Prime being the best-selling Metroid game for a while. And I was there. And I remember everybody thought it was an answer to Halo, which, he made a reference of that in a joke about that in the video. But no, people genuinely thought, oh yeah, this is Nintendo's answer to Halo. So they went and bought it, and then it was like, wait, this game is making me think. No. But that's what they thought. So that game sold a lot just based off people's own made up idea of what the game was going to be. But it wasn't. It was a tried and true Metroid game. It was Metroidvania. It was exactly what it was supposed to be. And clearly that didn't resonate with too many people because Prime 2 wouldn't do as good on GameCube. But then Prime 3 will come out, on Wii a little bit later, and it did better than Prime 2. But it didn't do that great, right? And I'm just trying to like put this correlation between Metroid games just doing better closer to launch of new hardware. So obviously GameCube, it was brand new. The launch lineup, was slow. Luigi Mansion, then you got Pikmin, then you got Melee came out, So then it picked up. It wasn't slow. Like November to December, you had a lot. Then it slowed down. Then Prime was one of those games people was waiting for. It came out and it did what it did. Again, Halo fans must have been like, nah. And then Prime 2 would come out and it did less. But Prime 3 came out next to, the Wii. Wii would come out in November. Prime 3 would come out August. Now, that, you can say, oh, it's a long gap. No, the Wii was super hot at the time, crazy hot. And Nintendo, they even did we would like to play Metroid Prime ads. Metroid Prime 3 would do better than Prime 1, but it wouldn't do better. I mean, Metroid Prime 3 would do better than Prime 2, but it wouldn't do better than Prime 1. So, launching with super successful hardware didn't really do much for it, while it launched next to really not successful hardware in GameCube, right? It wasn't super successful. But it did numbers based off preconceived notions, we could just say. But still, I look at the way the games were next to hardware launches. Those are the games that did the best in the series. And then there's Dread. And Dread comes out next to the OLED. Now, I know OLED isn't new hardware, but OLED is no different from PlayStation Pro, where the majority of people buying that shit is not going to be actually, well, the Nintendo more than the PlayStation, actual new customers. A lot of OLED people were people who had old Switches and was like, yeah, I'm going to upgrade. Now, a lot of them could have been hardcore Metroid fans and said, I'm going to upgrade and I'm going to get Metroid. But there was some who was like, I'm going to upgrade. What am I going to get with this new system? What was the game that was being pushed with it? The Emmys looked like the goddamn Switch OLED Metroid, so they went and picked that up. 3 million sold. It's so better. So I do believe that it being tied to the OLED helped Dread. I have no 100% proof of that, but I mean, they came out together. So I feel like it helped from the people who were, upgrading their old Switches to people who were getting a Switch for the first time. They was like, oh yeah, let me just get this thing with it, and I know Mario Kart for many of them was the option. A lot of them weren't going and buying Dread, but there were some. And that some is enough. Because the truth is, a lot of us are going to get Nintendo Switch 2, and we're never going to look back. It don't matter what comes out on Switch 1. If it ain't coming out, if it ain't a box that say Switch 2 on it, we're not playing it. We don't care. We've moved on. And you've seen that happen. It happened with Skyward Sword. You know what I'm saying? Like, where people didn't play it like that. There's a reason why they moved Animal Planet at the time or whatever, Animal Crossing. They moved it from launching at the end of the 64 generation where it was going to launch originally. They were hyping that game up right next to Majora's Mask, I remember. And then they just switched it to GameCube, and it was the best thing they ever did. So I feel like, yeah, still having it come out on Switch is important because there are 150 million users. But that's not going to be the case. It's going to be immediately 10 million hardcore Nintendo fans, and then those 10 million that went and bought a Switch 2 lives and sit the 3 million people who bought Dread. The 2 and change that bought Prime 1. And then you look at Prime 1 sales also compared to Dread. Dread came out next to the OLED. Prime 1 came out for cheaper. It's the most loved game in the franchise. It's like the Ocarina of Time of Metroid games. And it didn't even sell 2 million. So either Prime, people just don't like Prime, which is part of the last, podcast that I made. You can listen to that. I did a whole conversation about that. But they either don't like Prime or Prime just needs to change up enough. And I even mentioned they should maybe do a Bethesda thing where it's like, you could just press a button and go third person, like Prime will either find its audience or not. It's going to live and breathe on this release, and I think that's why this release needs to be the best it can possibly be. And launching it only on Switch in the year where you got Switch 2 is going to be a negative for the game. Period. I think it be. I don't even know if it'll be that launch. I already said I believe Switch 2 will launch in June, and Metroid will probably launch in August. But if it is their day one and it's there with Mario Kart, yeah, most people will buy Mario Kart. But there's always going to be those people who are going to buy more than one game. Now, keep in mind, Mario Kart is also going to compete with, oh yeah, I could just easily go on my Switch 2 and download Fortnite and download whatever's free at the time. There's going to be free games to play. You know what I mean? And then there'll be other third-party games there. Maybe somebody will say, you know what, I'm going to get actually Assassin's Creed. Or somebody else will say, you know what, I'm going to go and buy this release of Cyberpunk on Switch 2. Or somebody else says, you know what, I'm going to go get this. And there'll be something there. There'll be a Call of Duty game. There's going to be a lot of games. No matter when Metroid comes out. If Metroid is going to fail because it comes out close to heavy hitters, then Metroid shouldn't even come out in 2025. Because this is not the year to come out. Where is there a window of opportunity? Grand Theft Auto is going to eat up the charts for the rest of the year once it comes out. So wherever that comes out, whether it's September or December, yeah, that's a monster. And it'll be a monster for years to come. Mario Kart is going to be a monster. You know, 3D Mario is certainly going to be around the corner. So that's going to be a monster. It's like, where does Metroid fit in? Metroid just got to come out. And I feel like that's why being there at launch is just, yeah, this is that other thing you could buy. Hardcore Metroid fans are going to show up. We know there's at least 1 million of us, right? At least 1.5 million of us. I think we could solidify that. But if everybody who bought Dread shows up and then more people just start buying that game, yeah, it's a benefit for it to be on Switch 2. It's only going to get that kind of buzz, that kind of traction if it's on Switch 2. It's not going to do that on Switch 1. On Switch 1, it's going to be looked at as that game left behind. And it's gonna literally be that. It's like, why you would have never did that with his other game. You would have never just let it just live and breathe and die on the old hardware from 2017. You would have put it on the new hardware. And like I said, there's so much benefits to Metroid more than any Zelda game or anything because of who Retro Studio is as a developer, their track record, but just Metroid as a IP. Like, it just benefits from having stronger hardware. It's one of those games that are graphical showpieces, but all the loading and stuff. Like, imagine you got SSD speed loading on Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. And you walk up to the door, and it opens a big room. One of the big rooms. Remember Prime 1, 3, 2, they all had these specific rooms where you just knew, oh yeah, what's on the other side of this is a giant room, so it's going to load a little while. It's going to be a little 10 seconds or something like that. And imagine that being instantaneous. That can change a lot. Hell, when you think about a game even being developed from the ground up for new hardware, that's a whole other conversation, like having space pirates chase you room to room. Maybe that's something that they are planning, because, I mean, the Switch is so much more stronger than the hardware that the last Prime game was developed on, that they could have created so much cool things like that, like enemies chasing you room to room. We saw Silex burst into a room. You never know. Maybe that was a tease to let you know just going into another room isn't going to save you from an enemy on the other side. Like, maybe that enemy is going to come through. Maybe Chozo ghosts are going to come through room to room, and you're not just going to be able to just run away from them. Things like that. New hardware could make that stuff, more capable, like load better, cause less stutters and things like that would possibly come from those kind of ideas being achieved on the current Switch. So I see a lot of reasons why we should all be crossing our fingers, hoping that Prime 4 will be a game that is cross-generation. Yes, there's an opportunity for it to make a lot of sales. 150 million Switches out there. Cool. That's great. And I hope that they manage to get some of those 150 million. But if we going by history and we going by the last Prime game released, it ain't looking good. A lot of those 150 million people didn't care. And keep in mind that Prime launched at an insanely good price and is one of the best looking games, period. I'm not even going to say on Switch. It's just one of the best looking games. And yeah, still nothing. So, yeah. Nintendo got their work cut out for them. But new hardware makes people excited to spend money. And Metroid being there is beneficial to that. I could even go back to like Metroid First Hunt. Like for me specifically, I got a DS for First Hunt. I didn't care to play Mario 64 for the 1,000th time. So I played First Hunt a bunch. I was like, man, this is so cool. Then gave the DS to my cousin. waited till Hunters was coming out, and that's when I bought into. Wait, maybe Mario Kart. Maybe I bought into it with Mario Kart, but I know I imported a black DS. You know, it was the second model, not the day one. No, it was the day one actually, the big doofy one. It wasn't a light. But anyway, I got it when the Metroid game. Like that's when I was like, yeah, now it's time to get it. So we exist. Some of us who it's like Metroid can be a system seller for us, But obviously, if it's a Mario Kart game, then yeah, of course I'm gonna buy it. But if you ask me the question like, oh, if you can only get one day one, oh yeah, I'll 100%. I'm that guy who'll choose Metroid, even though I'm gonna be upset that I'm not kicking ass on Mario Kart Online day one. I'm gonna choose Metroid because nothing's gonna make me happier than going on an adventure with Samus Aran. Again, I know I just went on one in Dread, but on the Prime like one, oh, it's been too long. Nothing. I'll put nothing in front of that. Nothing. The next Zelda, the next 3D Mario, nothing. Only one that comes close is 3D Mario, especially if Donkey Kong's in it as a playable character. But yo, that's it. I'm done. That's my take on it. I want Metroid Prime 4 on Nintendo Switch 2. I enjoyed your video. That's why I said, you know what, I'm gonna do a response to it. And look, I understand the sentiment of of a lot of what you were saying. Not everything. I don't agree with everything, but I understand everything that you were saying. And I still feel like, yeah, man, we need this new hardware for Metroid because I just don't trust the audience to not have to be kind of like swayed into a Metroid game. Hey, look, new hardware. You should play this new shiny looking Metroid game. Like I feel like Metroid needs that. It just needs one of those to go very, very well, like it did for Breath of the Wild. So then when people be like, yo, I actually played a Metroid game, and now I understand why y'all love it so much. Like, this is cool shit. I really like all this, unlocking the world as I go, because it's like an open world. But they don't want me to access the openness, but I got to make it open. And it's like, yeah, that's basically what it is. And it's mad fun. More balls and epic boss fights and weird puzzles. Like, this is what the game is. It's great. So hopefully that can happen. It clicks. And then when they come out with Metroid Prime 5 within the generation and Metroid Prime 6, I said Metroid Prime 6. Well, yeah, that too. But also Metroid 6, and 7 and 8, like those games sell way better just because, well, the series, it finally found its audience. And I wish it did. Samus deserves it because she's a really cool character. Really cool. I mean, for crying out loud, she's an icon with no sales. but she is, She's an icon, so she deserves the numbers to match her legacy and everything she's provided, for this actual gaming industry because it's been a lot. So yeah, that's Metroid. Now,